a little bit about where you're at in business, what your hurdles are, and I can help guide the conversation that way. I'm not as big a stickler on the agenda that's been given inside of Ignite. If we dive deep on a topic that makes sense for you guys. And
Has any teacher stuck to the curriculum?
No.
most of it's just, you're gonna be on to at least, we're gonna talk today about winning seller, win the seller. So that was our process. Well, if you get a friend who calls and says something about selling the house, you know, kind of then what next? Or you don't have any of those calls, how do we find them, drum them up, bring them to a point where you can set an appointment and get from it. So yeah, I'm Troy. I was the principal broker here when it was KW Legacy, and then we merged Success, moved into a different role. Now I open a new office with Keller Williams called K-Win. It's our expansion network. So my office is right there. And then,
K-Win is where if you're licensed in multiple states.
Yeah.
You
so
can,
we have teams that are all across the US, and if they come to Utah, they have an option. They don't have to put their license with me, but they can, and there's some streamlined efficiencies built into my role with the big teams and so on. So my world started a little bit differently than probably most of yours in real estate. I worked at Snow Basin for the Olympics, so from like 1999 through 2002 on the race department. I grew up ski racing and had an opportunity. I got my college degree and then decided to go ski for work. But it was a unique opportunity. So I had spent 3 years setting up all the safety systems for the speed events, the downhill and Super G, and I'm really passionate about skiing and ski racing. So in fact, I'm still currently the president of the board of directors for the Snow Basin ski team. Thank goodness that ends this next month. So, sure. But I say all that because it led me to an opportunity that really changed my whole life. I met a guy, Rob Buke, who was running what they call Worker City. We had about 2,400 volunteers that would come through the resort every day. And this guy, Rob, was super cool, local home builder who shut his company down during our big race. So it takes about 2 weeks to run a downhill Super G event for the World Cup athletes. So he'd shut his whole building company down, bring his whole crew up, all of his staff would come up and they'd work. And I worked for the resort. I got to know this guy. And so we built a really good rapport. He's just like crazy military dude that was running this business and stuff. And after the Olympics, I was a little bit jobless, just mowing lawns and at a yard care company. And ran into this guy later and he said, "Hey, do you want to come work for my home building company?" So I did, and then worked there a few years, got into where I was managing the sales department. I wasn't licensed at all, actually. It was just helping, manage the schedules, manage contracts coming to my, and Rob got me licensed in real estate at that point. I never wanted to actually sell. I just got it because it was part of the job. And then the market tanked in 07 and 08. All the agents quit. There was no one to sell the houses. So I decided to give it a shot. And honestly, the first real presentation that I had, contract and writing a buyer, I remember vividly right now. It was super exciting and the adrenaline rush was there. And then the whole process was amazing and fun. And then I closed the deal and went even higher and it was fun. So I kind of got hooked on real estate sales. I mentioned that because I come from a different perspective in that I didn't go knock doors and do expires and a lot of these generating listings. I had this kind of in with my builder and was sort of handed a subdivision source to market sell. So what happened with me is people would come in the door and say, "I want to buy a house on lot number 10, but I have a home to sell. What, how can you help?" So of course, that was the real gravy and the job is that I would help them. So my listing presentation and pre-listing packet started way back in then, just piecing together some random stuff. We'll talk about pre-listing packets, but once I got into that mode though of following up with buyers and sellers and working these leads, again, I just kind of fell in love and got addicted to the job. It's really is a job, it's a career, but also the grind, because I found along the way I'll tell some stories and can exchange how things would happen, like missed lot listing opportunities. Missed buyer opportunities just from lack of follow-up, lack of systems, lack of engaging in good training that was in front of me. So that's who I am. I've got 2 kids. I live in Riverdale, and skiing and biking is kind of my life. I like to ride mountain bikes a lot, maybe too much. I like to ski a lot, maybe too much. So that's me. I don't know if you care or not, but you're getting it anyway. So who in here has been in the business selling homes longer than 6 months? Yeah. Well, how long have you been licensed?
Almost 5 years.
Okay, cool. Cool. And tell me what landed you here in this class, in the business for 5 years and in the Ignite series.
Well, I did really good last year.
Great.
Like my whole, actually done pretty good every year, but I've never like had to like work for leads. They've just been,
Yeah.
they've put in my hand.
I call them the gimme deals, right?
Yeah,
Hey, Corey,
family.
can you come list my house tomorrow?
Yeah.
Hey, Corey, I want to buy this house on the corner. Will you come show it to me so we can sell it? That
Yeah.
deal?
Yeah.
Love those.
Yeah, and so, but then this last year, I've got 2 listing appointments and they interviewed more than one person and I lost them.
Okay.
So,
Let's fix it.
I've never had to fight. Like I've always just said, here, Corey, she's a real estate, and then they went with me. So
Yeah.
I figured something was wrong. And not only were they selling their house, but they were going to have to buy a new house after that. So that was like,
It's gut wrenching, right? When you do something-
and it just, it just blew my mind. So I'm like, I need to switch it up.
Cool.
So I came here because I heard Taylor Williams has really good training and 'cause I don't want to lose another listing appointment
I don't want you to lose it.
ever again.
Let's work
I
on
think
it.
the last one.
Yeah, it's, yeah, it's all right. But like, I think a couple things I take from your statements. One, at least you have the opportunity. Right?
Yeah.
You have to sit down with these people and they interview with more than one. That's gonna happen.
They were both referrals.
Both referrals, right? So you're gonna have that scenario where you're gonna understand, you're gonna ask them to go for the close and say, well, actually, I'm meeting with Bonnie tomorrow at 7, and so I'll get back to you. Right? So we can talk about how objections and process you might want to consider for that phase when we get. So I love though that you had the opportunity and then you're here now to say, let's see what can I modify. We're hearing the same across the board with most of our realtors. High producing all the way through the whole matter is the deals are harder to close. There's more phone calls being made to get the appointment. Once you get the appointment, there's kind of bigger hurdles to jump right now than there has been the last 2-3 years, right? It was so swift moving and things were so crazy that it was like, let's just pull the trigger on this one. So now people seem to have taken a step back. They're contemplating more. They're interviewing more than one agent more often, that kind of thing. So it's
Never
okay.
happened to me, so.
Cool. So we'll-
So I need to know how to work it
there's some
better.
great techniques and you'll want to find yours. I can see that you've got great confidence. That's the number one thing coming into the deal is just owning the appointment right up front. However you own it, I don't really care. You can use whatever listing packets created, the best one, the worst one. It's not going to be shit if you don't come in with confidence. So just keep that in mind. For that matter.
And Anna online said she's been
Oh,
4 years.
4 years, cool, cool. Anything you want to share on being in the business for a few years, what brought you into Ignite?
Oh, can you hear me? Sorry about that. I got into the business just to do it part-time. I was doing a lot of transaction coordinating.
Hold on, we have no volume, but maybe we do. Okay, Zoomland, if you want to talk, just go ahead and type in anytime. And up to like 45, so it could blast. Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and get moving. The first thing we're talking about is winning the seller. Hopefully I did not just. It's a quick course overview.
I can do it,
Oh, you can do it.
but then you won't.
Yeah, so we're just in the win the seller portion right now, and
That's,
are you?
no, you do it.
Cool. So today's agenda, we're gonna talk about what an A seller is, how to get the appointment, talk about the contents of the reasoning behind the pre-listing packet, the listing appointment itself. We'll talk a little bit about the listing agreement, and then hopefully there's some ahas, and we'll do a quick recap and talk a little bit about daily system success, what some things you want to do daily to. So while leads are vital to your sales business, seller listings are critical to your ability to build it to its highest level with the lowest costs and highest net. So they're by far the most effective piece of business that you can add to your portfolio. So when I hear someone say, oh, I'm just a buyer's agent, I kind of chuckle most of the time. So I'm like, guaranteeing if someone says, I'm just your house. It's okay to meet with the buyer and tell them I specialize in buyers. But sellers are what a great guess. List to last, if you've heard that before, it's a really true statement. Brings tons of value. So the course is saying here, able, ready, and willing to do business in the next 14 days. So an A seller, someone who says, yeah, just got the carpets shampooed, I got the yard guy coming tomorrow. We just need to repaint a wall. We're gonna list it, sell our house. We just have to decide it. That's an A seller. So you guys have all seen, has everyone read or familiar with the MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book?
Yeah, we're reading it.
Okay, cool, and coaching? Are you reading it independently or are you doing it in the coaching class?
I'm independent.
Right, cool. I have two versions, one here and one at home. I like one at home better because it's got the spirals. So leads, listing and leverage, right? This is a key cornerstone component inside MREA. Basically saying everything starts with leads. If you don't have leads, it's gonna be really hard to list and also add leverage to your system. So just starting with those leads is really the key. We're defining 7 virtues of seller listing. Seller listings mean marketing opportunities. You have more control of your time. Seller listings maximize your per hour compensation, volume. With seller listings, you're on the front end of pricing, and property market seller listings bring you more business. So a couple of stand out to me, which is really in particular, seller listings mean marketing opportunities. So obviously you want the commission from that sale, but at the same time, make sure you maximize your opportunity to let all your friends and family know. Basically, even if they're not looking to buy or sell, but you're a real estate agent and you're listing this house, and whether they buy it or not doesn't matter, because what you want them to know is your face associated with that listing for the opportunity for future business. Hopefully someone raises their hand in that population and says they want to buy it, because then you can get both ends. You have more control of your time. You guys have all worked with buyers, I assume. It's a riot. I love it. Drive
I
to
like it.
Tremont and back for one listing.
I did that too.
Oh my gosh, I know. She wants to see one in Delta. But it's great. It's a good little drive, you know. So this is for real for me right now. I got a file. I love her. She's an amazing. She's a gimme client. She called me. Hey, Troy, I want to buy a ranch property. Here's my budget. So we're gonna have to be 30 miles outside of Salt Lake. That's what we're looking at, but it's fine. So it's a gimme deal, but it takes a lot of my time. It's hours each time I go to show a property. Where if I was just listing her property, still takes time, but most of the showings are going to happen with other agents out there. I control when I put the sign in the ground. I control when I push my emails out. I control when I do the Facebook marketing. I control when the open house is in coordination with my seller. You just have more control, less at the whim of somebody else, right? Seller listings maximize your per hour compensation. Really the same thing here. Your per hour compensation is maximized because you don't necessarily have to leave the house to service the listing. You can much by phone, email, Zoom, that kind of stuff. Buyers, you pretty much need to be with them to meet in the house. Volume. So you typically use, you list a property, your chances of picking up buyers for that house or other houses is higher, which adds more volume to your business. And it's all about volume. More volume move through, the more money you make, the more money you make, the more closings you have, the more volume you have that goes through, gives you a deeper database to market later for more volume. Make sense? With seller listings, you're on the front end of price. So I want every agent in Keller Williams to be super keen and really educated on pricing. How do you price your property? There's a lot of value that you bring as a listing agent, but in my opinion, probably one of the highest is your fiduciary responsibility. You're caring for the client. But one of the next biggest pieces, and it kind of falls under the fiduciary impact, is price. If you know how to price well and get on the front end of it in a market, you're gonna have really good success getting everything your client needs. We'll talk about their needs and wants. Your pricing can change based on what your client needs. Properly marketed seller listings bring you more business. So how can a properly marketed listing bring you more business? Give an some experience or example of
The people that will come to see
Okay.
the home either will purchase that home and you would be their agent, or they won't purchase that home, but they'll want to see more.
Yeah. Love it.
Therefore,
Yeah, so when you do, have you guys done open houses? I assume you've done some. How many people have sold a home from a buyer that came to the house? You did.
Mhm.
She's the anomaly, right? We can hope 10 of them.
Two.
She's got 2. She's really good at open houses, so
Just
let's
the
do
next
more of
door neighbor-
those.
Next door neighbor came over
Okay,
and I sold her house as well. From one open house.
so massive opportunity, right? Inside
That
that.
never
listing.
happens though.
It never happens. But so, and we can talk about that as well. If you don't have listings, how do you get other listing open houses? That's rad, though. You've had tons of business come from one house or just from listing. It's
Yeah,
not
but
always
it's-
plus.
Just pure luck.
And so, yeah, that's an amazing way. Ideally, what happens, right, is a buyer comes in and says, hey, I want to buy this house and I've got another house to sell. And they have 3 sides of a deal. So volume that, let's just say it's $500,000 house, you get both sides, that's $1 million. Say they had a $300,000 house for sale, it's 3, so it's 1.3, just with the one client that came through the door. So that's where volume comes in. That's where you pick it up. So along the way, you're asking questions like who, you don't ask, well, do you know any other A sellers, but certainly ask, hey, if I deliver, the highest value you've ever had in a real estate experience, would you be willing to refer me to a friend or family member who also needs to buy or sell in the next 60 days? Put that cap on, right? Put time for somebody who needs to sell soon. Oh, great, you don't know, you don't know in the next year, ask them what feels referrals. Or 7-step seller service cycle. So obviously you're gonna have leads coming in and you're gonna convert those leads. You have a pre-listing. We'll dive into that a little bit deeper. A listing consultation, servicing and marketing, offers and negotiations, contract close, and post-close systems. So I think the post-close system is an area as well that leads into more business, more volume for future that most agents fail miserably. To get the check, to get the closing. That's it. There's no real post-closing fault. They're really good at converting the lead. It comes in the funnel. They manage them and micromanage them, push them into the little deal until eventually they list. They do everything up through 6 really well, and post-closing, not so much. So that 20, it's somewhere in the 20-25% range of people who use an agent to buy their house. We use the same agent to sell it. To go to sell, that's a pretty low number. If you have a really good post-closing system, you're going to convert a much higher ratio for those. And there's nothing better, right? Where the gimme call is the best claim. Yeah. So when you start out in business, it's tough to imagine getting the gimme calls, but the longer you do it, and the better you do the post-closing process, the higher likelihood you get those calls. It's just, we're moving to Montana. Will you list and sell my house? And you could know an agent in Montana that I can use. So that's the service cycle as defined inside of Ignite. Could you, create additional categories and things? This really covers it. Any ahas thus far? No, nothing.
Maybe.
What's that?
I guess that we're gonna learn about it, but I don't know what you're talking about post-close.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So let's go back to this here then. So post-close system. So something I did, for instance, and I'm kind of part of that category, but as good as I could. Post-close system is, in my opinion, starts at the closing table. Meet Susan and the title officer at the closing, and what happens there? The deal's done. She's got the money wired already. All we're doing now is
Signing.
yeah, that's the smallest part of it, right? They're happy, you're happy, everybody's happy. So what do? You deliver a thank you card, you have a recap of the transaction, what kind of stuff there. So what I typically do, those I think it's harder this way, but I try and create a more customized gift that's maybe meaningful. Right? So it could be as simple as just like a Mickey blanket, or it could be ski passes to Snow Basin with a gift card to their bar or something like that. So something unique and decent. Little more transactional though. I use the transaction doc receipt. I think that's an amazing part of the conversation to have right there at the closing table on paper, even if you've done everything else digitally so far, to go line by line and just make sure, hey, did you get a copy of the I've emailed you a copy of the completed Rep C with addendum 1 through 6. If there's anything missing in there, make sure you get a hold of me. I keep a copy of it that you've already got digitally. But we talked about this, that, the other, so we got everything, and then have them initially sign that up. So it kind of refreshes in my mind, or in their mind, all the little things that they don't really see. Like they see it, but they don't see it. Does that make sense? One of the big complaints
They don't
about,
pay attention because their mind is focused on the home that they're gonna be moving into.
yeah, they're like thinking about fencing, landscaping, where am I gonna put the dog kennel? Like, oh my gosh, I got people in the house right now, because whatever, right? They're thinking of other things. So you want to bring back to some of the value, which is the contract that you professionals. So then, then you give them the closing gift, you kiss, you hug, you have whatever your style is for a quality and more or less meaningful closing process. Right? that delivering the keys is another big point, right? Make a deal of it. Don't just hide it under the mat and say, yeah, just grab it from the mat, or I'll leave the combo key box on the fence. Like, meet them there, right? Meet them there and exchange keys and everything else. That's to be part of the post-closing process. Then within the first week, what do you even call them? Do you text them? If you do, say, sorry, the deal's done, the check's cashed, I'm out. I like call them, right? Just a simple phone call. This is super easy. How's the new house? Have you guys been able to unbox even some of your stuff? My guess is it's gonna take a while. I saw a restaurant down the street from your house that I tried the other day. It's really great. So if you guys are swamped unpacking, you should go check it out. Find some area information maybe you haven't already talked about. Just follow up, find out how it is if you met your neighbors. Right? 30 days, yeah, another phone call and some communication back, if it's even email, just making sure, hey, you got your utilities all set up, so make sure everything's working smooth. Right? Did you get the information on the home warranty that we ordered? Any requests or issues with that? Right? That's kind of personal touch. Then they should all go into a 90-day just follow-up call. 90 days, you're just having a forward conversation, family, occupation, recreation, dreams, like how's family, how's work, how's the house, just basic conversation. Then seasonal tips are great post-closing, right? So like in the spring, make sure your air conditioner is clean out your rain gutters before, whatever reason you want. Spring cleaning tips are great. And then tax time's a huge one as well. So like when they assess for your taxes, they apply it in November, usually comes out like July, I think the notice is, like call them and say, hey, did you get your tax notice? I'm curious what it came in at. We paid $555 for the house. Last year's tax value was $485. So I know it felt like we went out, or the tax value was $565. We paid $555. So we got a great deal. Let me know what the notice comes in at.
What if it's low?
If it's low, say great, you're stoked. Because now you pay on less market. Now if it's low, like literally that's what you say is don't worry about the tax value coming in low, because the market, the tax value rarely reflects the actual market. Still, in fact, I saw 2 comps that are sold around your house recently that you probably got from the neighborhood update that I gave you. Right? So in our app, you have the neighborhood. Is that what's called neighborhood?
That's
So-
like monthly or bi-weekly.
Yeah, so on like bi-weekly, or even monthly, or however you can schedule that, so that they continue to get value information in the neighborhood they already closed. That's good information to have. And if the tax value is lower, then great, you save on taxes because you're going to pay on a lower assessed value. If it's higher, let me dig in and see if I can find some comps so we can build tax value, bring your taxes lower, so you don't have to pay as much tax on property. Right?
When is
When you go
that?
to sell, we're going to still price it at the best the market will handle, but for tax purposes, we want that.
When does that happen? Is it like?
Weaver County, they apply the assessment in November, and they usually give
So it's coming out in July.
so it comes out early enough, and they give you that there is a window, so you want to know the window closes for the appeal period. But most of the time, if you produce a few comps and send them in, to make the effort, they'll make some adjustment. Sometimes they tell you to take a hike, but usually we'll make some adjustment. What that does, though, for you as an agent, gives you practice to price, a practice to assess value. You've done appraisals, you get value, probably gives you that practice. Brings value to the client because now you're reaffirming, or you're bringing a different perspective on pricing that they may get from Zillow. Right? Estimate, what does estimate say? It's good to check that against the taxes during the same time period. Right? Taxes say 450, this estimate says 675. You actually think it's 500. Like, why the difference? Because I'm shit. I get it's done. Here's why. I got a whole report. This is what I do for living. Right? So sell them on your service, sell them on your value. Which leads me to the annual. I do the same thing on the annual, actually, is send them a new CMA. Doesn't have to be a really crazy in-depth one, but give them 3 or 4 recently sold comps, a couple actives in a packet. You can just email it to them if you want. You can hand deliver it. Decide depends on what you want your post-closing process to be, but track it for them. So keep a sheet for that same client that says, the Joneses purchased May 10th of 2023. So every year in May, you're delivering a new value piece. They bought it for $475. The second year was $495. Third year it's $565. Fourth year it's maybe back to $505. Right? So they can kind of see the trend of values and keep that sheet. It's easy in a client file to do, and then sparks more conversations. If they end up with $100,000 in equity in the house that they already bought, do you think we could have more volume to your business if you went to them and said, hey, I just noticed you pay 475, I think your house is easily worth 575. Have you thought about talking to Susan about a HELOC or a cash out refi? And maybe we could take some of that equity and buy an investment property. That's a really great duplex around the corner that would generate a solid 7%. Have that conversation. No, we're not interested in investing in real estate. I got my IRA, I got my 401k. Totally fine. If you ever think about investing in real estate, give me a call because I give me a solid, really great investment property. Being able to have some equity in your house, great to leverage that. Leverage. Any of that sink in? Any of it good? So post-closing process is yours, right? There's nothing scientific on what it has to be. All I would say is make sure you're touching base with them. At the very least, I would say a dozen times throughout the phone and years after that. You'd be crazy surprised how many people you had a fantastic transaction with. You left with hugs and kisses, tears because everyone's so happy, and 3 years later you find out they sold us. And who knows why? You want to like someone door knocked. They had an open house and they sold them in a listing packet, and then you find out later. And also you might find out I didn't even know you were in business anymore, right? Because you never sent me. Never sent me anything. Post-closing is huge. Basically free, too, other than your time, which can sharpen your skills. Does that make sense to help answer your question?
Yeah, no,
Any big, I can see your wheels turning.
thing is great,
Yeah.
especially just for people I've sold to, and then the comps a year is great, and then also I got like, this is making me think, oh my gosh, I sold all these people houses last year, and now in July I gotta get in touch with them again.
Yeah, for sure. Call them tomorrow. Post-closing process starts tomorrow for you or
Yeah.
tonight. I don't care when, right? Call them, just, hey,
Ask
maybe
for a
look up the
referral.
data. Hey, it looks like you closed back in January. How was it and how are things? Great follow-up.
It's a great way to follow up with them.
And add them to, if you haven't filled out that client detail inside of Command yet as to when they closed on their property, do all that stuff because you can sync your smart plans to pick that date to queue you for a new task. So you can build a smart plan inside of Command every year that this post-closing plan comes up. Define what it is. And decide when and where you're going to ask for referrals. Not agent appreciation events, client appreciation events as well as part of post-closing. Everybody you've ever done business with should absolutely be invited, even if they don't live in Utah. Just invite them because they live in Oregon, but they know they have a brother here. You know what I mean? Like just invite them.
And it keeps you in mind.
Keeps you in mind, 100%. Anything you can do in your business, in my opinion, that's essentially free or ridiculously cheap and easy, like social media posting. That kind of stuff should just be done regularly with your sphere, and how you categorize your fear in buckets is sort of another stage of the lead generation piece. But yeah, the post-close system, I failed miserably for a long time. I'm better at it now, mostly phone calls this way. It's what I've formally added is just the 90-day follow-up, and then the tax assessment, and I tie that into a friend of mine, Rick, realtor Rick. He's not a realtor. But Rick gave me the idea on that the yearly property analysis, and really he equated it to, he's like, look, you get a prospectus from your mutual funds and your stock investments every year that stock do last year. What's it worth today? Last year? Well, what did it do? So why don't we get the same for our houses? If we're selling it as an investment, you're not an investment advisor. But why not give that same value to the client, right? They wonder, they look at Zillow, it's either it's spot on, whatever it is, it's another opportunity for so and we can dive into deeper engagement too. So getting the appointment. So A sellers, we know who they are, get the appointment. Any lead inquiries you have, respond right away. Like I full on waited. So it was, I'll tell the story. I was in Montana. You heard of that state? It's up there. Beautiful. I was on this stupid bike race thing that I did. I was a tent Sherpa, set up 150 tents every day at 6 different campsites. But I had a client call, they wanted to list their house. It was like the first day of this tour in Montana. And I was just like discombobulated and busy. I could have listed the house time on everything else, but I didn't follow up with the lead for a day and a half. So it was like they called me on a Monday. I think I called Wednesday. Oh, sorry, we already called this guy. He's listed it tomorrow and go on the market. Like, you know what I mean? Like all I had to do was legit call him what I was doing, I set an appointment, and I had my 95% sure. got it. So follow up as quick as you can, it's a text, and we'll talk about some of your lead sources. But get valid and complete information, contact information, save it to command and create an opportunity. So same thing, my system before I came to KW had another CRM, but I didn't love it. So I would like go in my calendar. Events, and it was just not the best system. So make it easy. Get yourself an 8x8 buyer campaign, 10 days of paying buyer campaign, whatever campaign makes most sense for you. And listing, same thing with the listing ones, and then follow them, make sure all that information inside of command, because you can leverage all sorts of things through Twilio text messaging, automated email grouping, tasks that come up to you on the computer and on your phone. You can click the task right there, pulls up the client, it's their phone number, you call them right from that. You don't have to wonder who am I supposed to call. It's already going to get that to you if you set up. Determine the motivation to sell so you can speak to. So they work on base, they're getting relocated somewhere else, they need to be gone August 15th. Versus, well, we just had the house for a long time and thinking we got some good equity, we're kind of pondering, maybe thinking about buying a patio home, or sort of thinking about maybe going to St. Joe, like they don't really know. I think those are two different buyers, or seller, one's super urgent with a time frame that they need to hit. So as you present your listing presentation, you can tie specific dates to the whole thing, right? If you list with me, we're going to have a sign in the yard on this date. Pictures will have already been done. I intend to have an open house on this date. With the current market, the way it sits, average days on market is X. We should have an offer within that window if we price it appropriately, which would give us a 30-day escrow to get you out of your box. Like speak to their need. Again, but speak to their need. If they have a time frame, line your presentation up to get some timeline. If they have an equity game that they need to get out of the property, bring your value game all day long. Like, what's the pricing really? What's it going to be? Are they out of the, they on the night price they need, or do they actually have more to own that piece? And then same thing with calling them back, set an appointment, ask for the appointment every time. I got time Thursday at 3 or Friday at 2, like which one's better? Ask. Neither. Okay, next week I go Wednesday at 1 or Thursday at 9, right? They hit them again. Like, just ask for the appointment. I'll be in your neighborhood on Wednesday. Is there time? $50 to be out there. Oh, if they'll meet with me, right? Like, ask them for the appointment and try and meet with them as soon as possible. Like, no obligation. I just want to bring you the information that I have. It's a little bit about, what I do here. So, and then send a pre-listing packet. So does anyone here use a pre-listing packet or evaluated a solid pre-listing packet? Okay, I want to talk about pre-listing packets a little bit. And Mike's going to go through this first and then we'll talk about that. So this is what sellers want most from their agent: help price the home competitively, help seller market the home to potential buyers, help sell the home within a specific time frame, help sellers find ways to fix up the home, sell it for more, and then other pretty good category. But it's good to know what most sellers want, so you can tune your ear in your conversation with them, setting that appointment and finding out what's during the consultation phase, what is most important. Are they worried about how it's going to look and how getting it fixed up, ready to sell? If so, that could be your value contribution in saying, look, I've got a great carpet cleaner, no biggie deal. He'll be in like 3 days. I've got a great painter. I know a handyman. I've got a cleaning lady that's amazing. Shit, I'm available Wednesday night for a couple hours with my husband's truck. Like all the stuff out of the garage. My last listing, I took literally 7 trailers and truckloads of stuff out of her house to the dump. You just needed it.
Order?
Yeah, well, not really, but she lived there 37 years, and it was important stuff to her, right? Like it was, and when it came down to it, she was at a point like, no, it's garbage. You're right, it's totally trash. How much can I sell this for? Nothing. Okay, and we just tossed it, right? But I offered that value component to help get the transaction done. It was an easy deal for me. I picked up several buyer leads, a potential seller lead that may or may not close now, and I made a relationship that was, impressionable on her, and hopefully she'll send me new business later. So, but I in my consultation, I discovered what was important to her, and it was to be able to kind of leave the house and help me get this stuff gone without literally crying over it. And then help fix it up, like she did some additional things that make that. Do some painting, fix some side. Those things. Where the time frame wasn't important as important for her. And then, of course, we market and price it. So, we'll get to, I'm excited about previous. We'll follow it. Okay, anybody have any questions this far that I feel like I'm jabbering?
The cleaners, the handyman, These are things that you are suggesting, you're giving them reference, or you
Sure.
are supplying?
No, don't supply.
Okay.
Well, if you want, I guess, but I wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
It's all their cost.
Right.
So part of your value proposition will be a few things, right? When I price a property, I prefer to see it before I firm up my price on it, but I also never want to show up to a listing appointment without a price opinion in hand. Does that make sense? So you're sort of like cart before the horse, what do I do? So I always create a broad range, because some houses you're going to come to, it's going to be a hoarder home. It's going to have had cats in it. It's going to just be gaudy as hell. It's going to have pictures everywhere, and it's going to need stuff. Some of them you're going to walk in and it's going to be pristine, and they've already hired a stager. They've already had the cleaner come through, and they just live like this, like it's a model home. So you don't know where it's going to land. It lands on the hoarder side, and the really messy side needs a lot of work. You have to be able to craft conversations that aren't insulting to the seller, right? You never want to be like, you know, I could easily insult that situation, but right. So you want to step delicately, but when you price it, you say, look, if we want to price it here at this high end, I want to show you a couple pictures of what that expectation would look like, what a buyer is going to expect a home priced at this side would look like, right? And maybe have in your listing packet a couple of the actives that are showing like top notch or an under contract that was only 5 days on the market. Print that one with some of the kitchen photos, or have it digitally available so you can show them. Look, perfect, right? You can't even tell this is any but a model home. It's built in 1982. Right? So but that's the condition of the pricing I'm suggesting is going to be based on a scale. Like we've got some tabs to do. So, right, the conversation, if it's maybe an empty nester couple, they don't have a lot of help. You can tell they don't feel like doing the work. And that's the question, right? Are you willing to hire somebody? I do think, you know, cleaning the carpets and having a stager come through would be really beneficial, and probably get us to the price here and show better. So if that's something you're willing to do, I've got some girls. So each one is very unique and very different, but worth understanding.
Bonnie and I did an open house, and I'm doing another open house for the same couple.
Okay.
Saturday, did the open house Saturday, I'm doing it again Saturday. When I went there, the pictures that were taken that I saw were A1.
Yeah.
But then I get there and they've got 3 cats and a dog and seemingly not a lot of follow through.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, so they got it tip top for the photos and they don't live there like that, right? So part of my conversation with sellers as well, when I list, is I said, look, this is gonna be, we're gonna have so much fun. I gotta.
Yeah.
Well,
And I'm just a new agent going there to do a showing.
yeah, so you're showing up, it's not your client, right?
Right.
It's another listing in-house.
Right.
So you don't want to have the conversation with them because let their agent, maybe,
Right.
but it's worth giving feedback and advice from buyers who walk through, and even you as an open house agent, like, look, I really think after showing this to 5 different buyers that came through, we did X, Y, and Z would help the home show better, get you closer to your target price. Don't be afraid to share that feedback to the listing agent, because they probably want to know.
Yeah, I did.
And that they can have the delicate conversation and on what improvements should be made or what changes would help get to the right. And you see how he's phrased the words a little bit differently. Clients, maybe better to say, giving some different words. But what I tell a seller when I'm meeting with them is I like the assumptive close. I'm going to assume that me as Troy, when I make the appointment, when they agree to meet with me, they're listening. We're doing business. Even if they've got 3 other interviews, we're doing business. I'm going there to sign the agreement. I'm going there with the attitude and the presumption that this is going to happen. So in my conversation along going to get the close, I'll say things like, you know, how great the process is going to be. I'm going to walk you through. I'm going to take care of all the paperwork. We're showing to be super easy and seamless. We use this app. Blah, blah, blah. But then I'm also going to let them know, listing your home for sale is really a pain in the neck. It's like, it's gonna be so inconvenient. So I want to help you make it as convenient as possible. You're gonna have to leave a lot, which means you might have to clean up a lot before you go. So have a plan in place for those quick showings, the ones with shorter requests and notice, that we can clean off all the counters and put it away so that it shows. Maybe we can do a quick vacuum, have the vacuum ready on this floor here. So what I'm doing is setting a stage that this is sort of the expectation amongst all my sellers. I'm not picking on you. I'm not picking on the fact that you're living in a pigsty. Like, but my expectation is that the counters are cleaned off and that there's no, less is more on all things, right? The carpet does have a fresh vacuum. It's weird how it bothers me when I go showing. I know they were just there. They didn't even bother to just give it a quick vacuum because it looks so much better. So I have that kind of conversation. That piece. Then during that visit, you'll be able to kind of tell again, how willing are they going to be to make it look like a model home and because it's really not very easy to live and maintain a model home. Right? Like I've got 2 kids, it's like shoveling snow, snowstorm every day, all the time. My daughter has a horse, and I swear it's like there's tack in every corner of the inside of my house. I'm like there's a mark for this stuff. Why is it here? And yet it is. So people that are in that situation. But during your conversation of when the showing happens, it's going to be convenient. So here's the things I recommend you do. Have a list of maybe 10 errands that you can run nearby, so that you're not just driving over to the park to sit and stare at the wall. Like make a Home Depot list, make a grocery list. So when you get these showing requests, you can go out and get some stuff done and stay productive. Also schedule some time to make sure that you've got the counters clean, vacuum, rugs, dogs are taken care of. Does that help?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so look at that. We talked a little bit about something close. So there's really 7 close to appointment tactics. You guys have probably already reviewed this in the buyer. Yes. But anyway, show the benefits clearly, right? You want to sell the benefits of using a realtor in the transaction. You're their fiduciary, you're professional in pricing. You're gonna handle all the showings. You make sure the only qualified people are coming through the door with an agent, so their property is taken care of, right? I've spent 67 hours on pricing your property. It's gonna sell within a penny of this price. But, right, sell the bag, show the benefits of working with you, all the different things that you bring to the table, right? The take back close is one I don't use very often, but that's something like today and only today can set gifts. But by having a time limit is actually kind of what that take back close means. This week, I'm including aerial photography for the best operator. So you have a chance. Again, I don't know that many realtors use the take back close. Negative, positive close. Really just talking about the negatives and positives of using or not using a realtor, and emphasize, of course, the negatives of not using one. Yeah, positive of using one. Look back to the value you provide, right? Give you guidance on how best to stage your house to get maximum dollar homes that have my advice, or that get staging advice. Always sell at a higher price in a quicker time frame. Is that true? I don't know. I don't have a statistic to back it up. You don't want to lie, but you also want to accentuate the positives, right? Give them what they're looking for. I want to list for 0.5%. We list for 0.5%. What? Come on, sign right now. 0.5%.
100%.
But give them what they want, right? If they tell you they're looking to be, they want top dollar for their house.
Which is what listing for 0.5%, that's what they're saying.
But
Is it
I'm
really
I'm
about
just
the
saying, an
commission?
example, like if somebody wants something, a seller's gonna have specific demands, right? They want aerial photos and they want the best social media exposure. You have to, sell yourself on what you give them what they want. They want a really high price, be real with them on what the price is. Always have to give them. Trial close. I'm not entirely familiar with the trial close. I think,
I think the trial close would be like I call it a temperature check, like on a
Yeah.
scale of 1 to 10. Where are you at on hiring me?
would you agree that my services would lead toward a highest highest price and best terms on your property once it hits the market. Yes or no kind of thing. Assumptive close is legit, just assuming. All right, we've gone through price and everything. My range was 570 to 800. What we gotta do now is just go ahead and start the paperwork right here. I've got your name, we've got this, you just initial here. 6% is the number. Next deal, next page, next. You just and do this, right? Tap on the paperwork, nod up and down with them. You know, mimic what it means to be closing. Like, I know it sounds stupid, but people follow cues, right? And if she's got her legs crossed like that, cross your legs and use, and then give the positive points with paper, tap on the contract, and again nod. It was good to you, right? Okay. Good. Sounds stupid, but I can hardly tell you the first 7% listing I took. This gal just said, look, just ask for it and nod. Do it. Sure enough. So the assumptive closes. That's what I wrote. I come in assuming they're going to close. They're going to list with me that day, and you're just doing the skill. So we're during my listing presentation, which is a little different. I try and keep it short on the content of like what I'm going to do, where really focus on pricing most of the time, and then my fiduciary through the contract negotiation piece and all that stuff. But along the way, when I'm talking to them, I'll have the contract on the table, not necessarily face out saying exclusive right to sell, but I'll have it there. I'll tap on it. So I can look at it. When we list your property, we're going to do this, that, and the other. Right? You start setting this weird little. It's like
That's not creepy.
I don't know. Well, I don't like it, but it's there, right? It's there. It's not as obvious as you might think, but it's on the table. I don't want to have to pull it out of my bag and say, okay, because that's a different deal, right? Pulling it up out of your bag, like, here, let me get my listing contract out and let me find it and show it to you. No, I'm prepared, right? I have a folder that just pops out. It's got their CMA on one side, and for them to go through for the pricing evaluation and have the rest of the other side. And when it's time, I just open it, I just put it out and I say. So the next step is getting our agency agreement in place, and here's how I represent you as an agent. We already talked about fiduciary duties. I'm really excited to get your home listed. So I think I'm a photographer here on Thursday to go through it, and then I go through each paragraph and have a summation of what the listing agreement is. And most of the time, we start. They might have some questions and objections. And they have.
So you need to know the listing agreement. You need to know every section. Because you
Come
don't.
to
'Cause I have-
compliance with Ken. Come to compliance with Ken. They'll go over those.
It's on
different
Fridays
documents.
at 9:30.
Yeah.
You guys know that?
Great
It's also
opportunity
on
to get
Zoom.
role play in a big room when you're at home. It sounds stupid, but do a
Practice explaining.
packet, yeah, explain it to your friend, your boyfriend, your husband, whoever, your wife, and.
The
walk
mirror.
through it. You know it well enough that you can read the title at the top of each section and not have to turn it around, glasses and read it, like time is of the essence. Second, everything in our contract, what time is of the essence, and it's right? Agency disclosure, I represent you as the listing agent right now. There could be come a time where I represent a client who wants to purchase your home, in that, in that instance, I could become a limited agent, but you have full rights to agree to that or not. And what that means is I represent both parties. I can't say something to the buyer that hurt you. I can't tell you something with the buyer. We often come to terms with some of the best terms ever. So I hope I do get to procure a buyer when we get your home listed.
Well,
Next page.
so I have just a quick question.
I don't count like.
So for that, like when I said in listing appointments, what I said, so this is bad. I said, if I get, I explain how it works and say, if I do get the buyer and the seller, instead of the full 6%, I'll do the whole thing for 4%. Does that sell myself short?
It is.
Because they've
It
liked
is.
that.
Don't even bring it up yet.
They've liked
Don't
that.
even bring it up.
They say, oh, really?
Just.
That's most likely not gonna happen, but they like,
Well, so
But then
here's
it
what
happens.
happens though, is, I mean, if it's your brother, right, or something like,
family.
if it's a deal when you're like, no, like, we're putting cash in your pocket, like. But the reality is you're gonna be working, even though you pick up that other side, it's still 2 transactions, it's still double your efforts, it's still all these additional things. In addition to that, it does increase your fiduciary liabilities, right? Like, you really have to be crazy careful about who you say what to and how that all works. And so I think you're still due full compensation. So I don't bring it up front unless they say, hey, well, what if you, or as you're talking about limited agency, so if you get a buyer, the fee we talked about of 6%, does that change? Well, we could talk about it. let's talk about that. I'm still, and I let them know, I'm still going to have representation duties to them and fiduciary duties to them. And so typically I don't discount that. What I would say is that if during those negotiations, it gives me additional room, say they might need more closing costs, or you might need some money to, some money to sell or something like that, as we evaluate your final net number, I'll have a little more wiggle room in the pot to help you out. But my goal is still to get you the highest dollar for your house in the best time frame and best time possible. So for me to discount my fees right now, doesn't lead toward me making that. I want to make it. It's really important. Ultimately, sell yourself off a percentage, and if they push for it, yeah, discount it. Yeah, fine. Like, I'm not gonna at all say it. I've done multiple. I've had sellers call and say, hey, look, my neighbor wants to buy my house, will you help me out? They've already got the loan and done an inspection. We just need a contract now, and we want to close in a week and a half. Like, oh, well, yeah, I could do that. Like,
Yeah.
sure. And I'll just charge them a fee, like a flat dollar. We charge percentages. I just figure out what's it worth. Get your broker approval first and office approval, but otherwise, yeah, discount it if you need, but don't do it up front, because if you walked in that listing appointment, they thought their home was worth 500, and you showed them was worth 5.25, and you sold it at 530, do you think you earned an additional 2%? I'd say all day long. And they'll see the same thing. They're like, look, Chloe put more money in our pocket. Happy. This is good. In fact, who else do we know? So, yeah. Well, I didn't know this came here. Oh, good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So was a tie down
Tie
on
down,
the
yes.
last page though.
Tell me about a tie down.
So like, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Wouldn't you agree? Listening to these things, it makes no sense.
Wouldn't you agree?
That's a tie down, yeah.
Oh.
So anything you can get them at the end, it's like turning the sentence you're saying into a question. So like, does that make sense? If you say whatever, does that make sense?
So questions versus objections. When a question is asked, answer it. When an objection comes up, address it. Oftentimes, in my opinion, an objection is just a question presented in a different form. Right? Like the objection might be, well, I won't pay 6% if you're gonna get the buyer at my side. That's a double thing. Address it. What they're really saying is it worth me paying you full price for both these things? So address that, right? Yeah, here's why I don't discount, because I'm going to be working with the buyer, make sure the inspections go smoothly, be working with our lender really closely. I'll have title on track with that as well. I still have 2 files that I have to manage and navigate. My transaction coordinator is going to be involved with both of those. And so yeah, that's what I charge. Like it, great, sign here. A tap or no. Okay. Same thing. How would you want to comment? I don't know. I'm watching.
You're 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
You're perfect.
I have no idea how much is left. Let's see.
No.
Oh God, we got a lot to go. Okay, pre-listing packet. So here's what we have left: listing agreement, listing appointment, pre-listing packet. I want to hit the pre-listing packet for my 50,000 foot view. What is a pre-listing packet? Do you know? Do you use one? Okay, so imagine your listing appointment right now. Does anyone have a listing presentation, consultation guide? Okay, go to command and designs, and you can click listing presentation. I think it's really simple to find. And there's like about 5 like pre-built templates. I think they range from 28 pages to like 85.
28 pages long.
Yeah, to like 85. There's one that's like super long. So I mentioned that because that's ridiculous. Don't print all of those pages. Don't formulate those into a packet to give your client and think they're actually going to read it. Okay. What the pre-listing packet does, though, it gives you an opportunity to streamline your listing appointment with assumptive closes, trial closes, takeaway closes, whatever closes you need to present to blend in the deal process. Pre-listing packet should include a quick bio, right? Who are you? What do you look like? Who are you with? What's your team like? What's your transaction history? If you don't have transaction history, like use the office's transaction, like build a fairly streamlined and simple one. Quick bullet points on what you do as far as marketing goes, right? Do you do anything special, enhanced advertising on Facebook? And the packets already got this stuff. Just what I would do is start deleting the pages that are extra long, 19, and I would treat them probably short. It might be 28 pages by the time you get done with it. If that's your style, that's how you like to present, and that's you're super thorough and in depth. I don't knock a 28 page listing. I want you to knock a 50-page one if it's effective. So tie it to your personality, understand who and how you want to present it, and understand what your value proposition is. Think back, like when I sell this house for these people, I list this home for these people. Why are they calling? Include that information back, right? Your license, that's easy, right? You're gonna make it hassle-free. You're gonna schedule all the showings. So make sure that some of that details inside there. Now, when we talked earlier, respond to your lead as quick as you can and set the appointment as quick as you can. If I get a call today, what's today, Thursday? And they say, can you meet tomorrow and help me list my house? I'm not gonna do a pre-listing packet, that's silly. I might send them a digital version, hey, have my assistant. Have your assistant send it, sounds really fancy. Send them a digital version of it, and I'm gonna be by tomorrow at 3 o'clock. I'd love if you take them to review the pre-listing packet. It'll help answer a lot of questions about how I market, how I service your listing when we decide this, when we get the sign in the yard tomorrow afternoon, right? You hear them dropping little hints. I'm assuming they're closing the listing with me tomorrow, right? That's typically my verbiage or my approach. You know, see, I have a specific script I use other than the key points, in my opinion, are when we meet tomorrow and sign the listing agreement, I put the sign in there. I want you to have already read my listing. So include that with your marketing pieces, and you either digitally send it to them, or if you have a chance to drop by. I think a drop by is old school and totally rad. Like if you can deliver it, printed, a cute little cover in the back, in a bow with a crumble cookie on it, and to say here, I can't wait to meet you guys Thursday at 3. This is a little bit of information about what you're gonna need to know about me before we list your home on Thursday. Something close, use
So
your
you can read it, it let me know any questions you might have.
my card's right on top, all my contact info's there, link to my website. In fact, I just sent you a link to my app. Take a look at my app. We've got buyer and seller guides in there as well. And some great stuff about you. So if you have time to craft and have prepared all ready to go, don't overthink it. A pre-listing packet that just delivers your value proposition in advance of your listing appointment. When you get to the listing appointment, you no longer have to go through all that stuff in great detail. Because very few people really want to know, are you going to put it on social media? Of course you are. You're not even a kid. You know, are you going to put a sign in the yard? Well, of course we are. Well, what about a key box? Of course we are. It's in the police. That's not their worry. Their worry is how much are you going to sell my house for? And when do you think it'll sell?
And the commission.
And maybe what do I need to do? And what do I
How
need
much am I
to
gonna net?
what do I need to do to fix it up and clean it? Right? Whatever their worries are, they're rarely this stuff inside their listing package. So I'm not saying it doesn't deliver value. It's not their worry that's going to make the decision factor most of the time closing. A quality presented pre-listing packet leads into your value proposition. You're professional, you're organized, you're systematic. What you're bringing to the table is an organized, systematic, high value proposition. Helping them sell it. It's the one-on-one piece. If you don't have a chance to deliver it digitally or in person, just include that inside your normal listing packet. My first few listings, I didn't time them, but it felt like eternity. I was at their kitchen table. Like, I'm just gonna wear these blisters out and sit here and I'm gonna tell them, I'm gonna read through this 47-page listing packet until they tell me, where do I sign?
Get out of my face.
Yeah, get out of my face. Sure.
Sean told me a joke yesterday about the Bible salesman. Have you heard about that? He stutters and like, and so he stutters, but Bible salesman, and so he said, but he goes, I want to sell Bibles, and the guy goes, you can't sell Bibles. He goes, just let me try. And then he's like, okay, so he gives him Bibles, and then the guy ends up being the top Bible salesman. And they go, what are you doing? Like going to come in and train people. How are you becoming the top Bible salesman? He goes, well, I just knock on their door and I say, I'm here to sell the book of the Bible. Do you want to buy one or should I read it to you?
It's good. It's good.
What is similar to your
Lay it on the table and give that and just, so. So your pre-listing packet helps focus your time and energy at the listing appointment to the things that are most likely going to matter to them that you can, because you're not going to be able to cater your listing packet directly to this person unless you have a lot of time, like off of what their needs really are, right? You're not going to want to shift it to be more time sensitive or whatever. So have your overall value proposition in there delivered. And then when you sit down with them at the listing appointment, you've already talked through what their needs are. You're talking through that at the table, then you can really craft how you're gonna market the home based on what the contents of the pre-listing packet are and close the deal. So, a friend of mine he introduced me what he called the 30-second listing. And I was like, my listing was like an hour and a half long. Tell me. You know, he said, no, this is what I do. I sent him a pre-listing packet. And it was great, really nice, well organized. And he sets the appointment and he calls him on the day of the appointment. Says, hey, I just want to make sure you got my listing, my pre-listing packet. Do you have any questions on it? Great, cool. Well, I'll be there at 3. Just want to make sure if there's if we both come to terms on price and you agree with what I've got inside the pre-listing package, there's no reason you wouldn't go ahead and just list with me today. So most of the time they just say, well, yeah, I mean, we're on the spot. They're just, yeah, if price makes sense, then sure, let's list. And when he gets it, your home's worth $575. Sign here and no kidding. He gets it done that way. You know, how often it's really 30 seconds? Probably pretty rare. But the point was, I've already delivered the fluff. They want to know when their house is selling price, most. So if you can come and you can hone in and zone in on that, you're going to most likely get it done. Now, always know personalities, highly advised knowing the DISC analysis. There's some other colors classes that teach like kind of different like personality traits that you can find out about people and just through conversation that you can understand about. Because the accountant, those guys, that's all they want to know. How much is it worth? What's the breakdown of fees? Is it going to close? That's their head spreadsheet. The ones that are a little more artsy, they're going to want to know more about how should I stage it? How should I, what are the showings going to look like? How should I make it smell good or not make it smell good? Like, what do I do? So you can cater your closing to those. And if they're married, good luck. It's good. Your pre-listing packet, I think, at the very least, can be, if you decide not to do one, at the very least include some stuff from command. So send them your app by text, right? Set them up on a neighborhood watch that gives them value of homes in their neighborhood so that they see, right? And let them know, like, this is just what's available. It's fancy. But if you do it right, it can be turnkey, really systematic, crazy easy. And my guess is 9 out of 10 other agents that are going to come to the door have not delivered a pre-listing packet. And so if you deliver one, you show a little different than ones, especially the
Do you have them fill out everything on the listing? Like, 'cause that's what I've done. And like all of it, everything that you do, like email the.
paperwork.
Mhm.
No, so let's talk about that. I don't send them value. I do not send my CMA through email. If I can ever avoid it. I have sent CMAs through email before, but for listing appointments, I would advise highly against sending that. in advance. I just have my value stuff, and I don't include the contract for exclusive right to sell and those agreements in there as well. I either follow up. They come to the appointment with those completed, so they're ready with all the names and numbers, and maybe have a couple variables in blanks, like if I think I'm gonna get beat up on commission, or they're not gonna pay my brokerage fee, my transaction coordinator, the $395. I might leave that blank and I'll fill that in and go. But I want to be able to explain those terms. I don't want to scare them away. I open up that document. Exclusive. I don't, they don't understand necessarily. So I know, and I like to make sure. So I don't send those documents bad.
Well, I mean, what about the sellers? What's the sellers one that's like 25 pages?
The disclosure.
Yeah, seller disclosures, and then there's,
I
do you
think that's
have to do
great.
that right there?
That's a great value point. Send it with your pre-listing packet.
Oh.
And or bring it with you so that every listing appointment I leave. So I'm not as perfect at I like this idea of actually including the seller disclosure packet inside the pre-listing. Hey, will you fill this out for me? So that when we list your home on Thursday, I've already got this information. It's a state required disclosure inside of our contract, and it was already filled out when I met with you on Thursday. It will really help streamline things. Get this going.
And then take it with you if they decide not to use it, because then I'll have to
Absolutely.
fill it out again.
Which is another reason I don't
Yeah,
use the CMA. So I don't deliver a CMA if they don't list with me. I take. One just go sell it back or like for sale by owner, or calling homie and saying, hey, well, my other agent said it's worth $575. If you guys do it for your $2,900 fee, then I'm with you. Right. So I don't leave my listing or my CMA if they don't list. I'll let them know. Well, should you decide to list with me, I'll update the CMA packet and I'll have to chat with you later.
I do a trial close before I present the CMA.
Okay.
To so that I can
So do you, what do you say? You say something like if, do you?
I do that. If, so on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in hiring me as long as we can agree on price? And then they tell me,
So how
and then if they
confident
say-
between 1 and 10, with me as your agent,
if we can
If
come
we
to an
agree on
agreement on
price.
price. And if they say 8, I'm like, what would it, I go for A's, like
Yeah.
80% confident, like what would it take to get me to get you to a 10? And then they'll tell me, and then I'll be able to address that.
that's 100% the words you should use and verbiage you should use, right? It's like, it's that's amazing, that's perfect.
That's a good
Exactly.
idea. But then it's before you tell them, even though that's the
Because then
price is all
we
that
have
they
to do
care
is agree
about.
on Price.
Because what if they're like a 1, like, all right, well then.
Well, no, then I'm like, really? I haven't done my job. I've never got a 1, but if I did get a 1.
And honestly, at that stage, and you ask and they say a 1. Either they didn't understand
I'll
the
say, what
question.
is it you were looking for in an
Yeah,
agent?
if you didn't understand the question or you really felt pretty miserably.
Buy now, it's right in front of you.
And so, I mean, the reality is you could have been higher than only 7 every time, and I've heard this too, that you can pick one between 1 and 10, be 10%. And it float to 7 instead of fall. So they give you an 8, you know, you're on my side, or 6. But I love that. That's perfect.
That's a good idea.
And again, anytime you can get them to agree, yeah, we come to terms on price, I'll list with you. Perfect. Yeah, I like your marketing plan.
Because then maybe they
I
might
think that
say,
would get me the best result for what I'm trying.
maybe they might say, it's an 8. Well, what, I like 10s. I wouldn't like, well, I'm not sure about maybe they'll bring up something like.
They bring up the
commission
unanswered questions.
Or
for
the
sure.
things that would make them go with somebody else. So that's why I like that. Because then you can be like, oh, okay, well, commission, that's your issue. Well, let's talk about it.
Right, yeah, it's just address
That's a
it.
great idea.
Yeah, so use the pre-listing to your advantage, right? Great opportunity to even, hey, you get pre-listing packet. Great, you know, neighbors, you might want one as well. I've got one. Right, just make a joke, right? But offer it up as a service you can.
You know, it's like, what, you got any neighbors that you don't want to be your neighbor?
Oh, with
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so that's the pre-listing packet. We've talked a little bit about, let's see, the purposeful approach, doing what comes unnaturally, natural sin of achievement. Yeah, entrepreneurial, purposeful. So, down here, I've got this great idea. I'm really motivated to go sell houses in real estate, but putting focus, models in place, systems in place, gives you a purposeful business. You can leverage. Things happen automatically. You get more gimme deals, you get more follow-up referrals that just happen because everything's automated and the systems and models are rocking. So pre-listing packet goes with this, already have for me. So it saves time, makes consultation experience smoother and reported by tackling comments. So that's what you want to do. You don't want to be there for 2 hours talking about mundane stuff that's not that it doesn't matter, but that you could have accomplished otherwise. Pre-selling yourself, again, you're going to present really professionally that way. State your value through what you bring. Pre-listing criteria, we review it in the listing presentation. So decide if you're going to deliver a pre-listing packet, what happens at my consultation? Do I actually say, can you bring the pre-listing packet out and let's look through it together? And you review it, because most likely they didn't read it. But then, so you decide how you want to work that. And it might be different client to client, because some clients, they might not ever read it and they won't even care if you go over it with them anyways. They just want 550 bucks. So, an example of it. Preparation checklist, deliver the packet, confirm the appointment date, ensure all decision makers attend. Crazy important. It's weird how many times you might go to a listing and find out their husband's not even there, and you meet the wife, who then has to deliver your value proposition to her husband. He's not gonna do as good a job, I promise you.
Now she was selling.
Yeah, or you mean, yeah, when it happens where they know, they just don't care, he's got something to do, so he's like, you mean, they just don't care, like, but what decision need to be in the house. I've seen agents take the listing without both signatures on the listing, and we find out subsequently, like, there's 2 people involved here, right? If it's in a trust, okay, well, before we meet, can I make sure that I understand who I'm working with inside the trust? Do you have a trust document I can review real quick to ensure we have the right executor in place to sign these documents and get who's on deed, who's on title? Work with your title company to confirm if you have time, like have them pull a quick abstract of PR for you so you can see who's recorded that account. Because if it isn't who you're meeting with, you got a good question to ask. So I'm excited to meet you Thursday. I found a quick discrepancy. It shows George and Mary are on Kyle, can you, is that an alternate name you use, or like, or is it somebody else altogether? It's crazy what's happening. So, complete practice your listing presentation. Again, friends, family, other agents in the room, coming to coaching, all that stuff is great. Read the documents, Corey, you mentioned, right, like you should really understand. I don't think I should be able to have to say what section 3 of the exclusive right to sell and have you recite it to me. But for sure, when it's upside down and across the table, you should be able to kind of hit the top of the notes, right? Susan, when you review loan documents, it's not like you're reading them and turning, right? Like you're kind of going through the highlights, right? Here's your APR, here's this, here's that.
Well, I used to have it so memorized that it would be like almost on autopilot
Yeah.
when we would meet face to face with loan app. And one time I just got distracted and I couldn't even remember where I was because I couldn't even remember what I had just said because it became so
Just part of
like,
who you
just
are.
part of my everyday.
Yeah,
And
it is.
I'm like, oh, wait a second, where were we?
So you'll notice when you close more transactions too, your lenders will show up and then title companies you work with. I work with one title agent that I just love, and I love it because she closes so well. She knows the documents in such detail and such right intimacy
Yeah.
that when she talks to the buyer or the seller, it flows so smooth. It's not clunky at all. She just goes through it and she spends the time where needed, but she's got a way of delivering it that's just really great. I've met with other title companies and agents that, and I'm not trying to steer anyone anywhere other than find somebody you like to work with because they do a good job with that kind of stuff. And so same with us, we need to know our documents. Review the lead sheet. So before you meet with the client, ideally you have them in command and you've got a good idea of what it is they're selling, why, what's the property. What is their motivation, all that stuff. So your head is already in gear for what their needs are, how you best going to serve that client. Arrive at the listing presentation in a professional manner. I took a guy to see a house the other day and I know him really well. I've sold him several properties. So it's 240. He's like, he had my truck and he's like, you ever clean this thing? And it wasn't bad. We were just we're chums, and so it was okay. But like my truck's filthy outside, inside, and that's not ideal. Like, right? So like,
My husband owns a mobile detail business.
does he? I want his number. He's gonna charge me double. I promise you. But for real, I'd like to know. Okay, so we're gonna turn some time over to you in just 1 second. Is that okay? You got a minute to just let me finish up the listing piece, or do you want to go now? All right. Won't you-
You want me here to do what?
Just when he's done with this, just
Okay.
if they have.
Or if you want to
questions.
type it now, you gotta go, we can give you a quick time.
I can go in. So just,
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna blast these last 2 topics in like 5 minutes, because I'm already like 15 minutes over. We have a whole nother session. I think the night should be longer, but it's hard to make longer because it's longer. But
No, it
it's-
should be like 2 hours for every class.
it could be, yeah, it could be much deeper in detail. So I will start speaking when we're pushing. I'm gonna zoom my activity when I keep up. I don't know if the digital processing. So listing appointment. So really everything inside of your pre-listing has already been delivered ideally. So you're not having to sell, the whole marketing plan and everything else, but be prepared to review it if your client wants to. And be prepared to talk about it. You want to have that in place, but understand what your listing appointment should look like from what you want to present to us. Knowing the goal is to list the property. Right, so understand the client first is that's just my cornerstone. If you understand who the client is, what their needs are, what their desires are to get the transaction done, then you're gonna have a much better listing appointment. So ask a lot of questions in conversations in advance, right? And you don't have to say like, well, when do you want your house closed? Do you have a price in mind? Like, just have a good conversation with them and you're gonna discover a lot of these answers. Alright. So take some time to lab it.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sorry, 'cause
No,
I don't mean to slow it down.
I love
but I'm
it.
just curious, like at a listing appointment, I've been told to. When you go to talk about price, the best thing to do is ask them, what do they think it's worth? But I don't know if that's not so right anymore. I mean, that's what I've done, but
Sure, I think it's okay. Yeah, it's good because it gets you, so here's a couple things. This is my own mental thing. I try not to ask that question before I do my CV. As much as I trust my own integrity and everything else, I don't want their number sitting in my head and then I try and find comps to support that.
okay.
So before I set the appointment, I don't like to know what they do. And I know it's weird and I should be
You
able
don't
to,
want to try to make it that.
yeah, I don't want, and I'll honestly hit the data as just point blank and as neutral as I can, because I need to be able to support it when the market sees it, right? I need to support it with the appraisals order. I need to be able to stand behind it and know that that's it. At the table, however, I like to do that, right? I like to look at the presentation, make sure they understand what the timeline is, what the timeline of events is, and so before we get into the value analysis, I'm curious, what do you think your property's worth? No, I'll almost always tell you, well, my neighbors just sold theirs, or I was on Zillow, or I got the tax, like whatever it is, right? And I'll tell you. So perfect, that's great to know. You know what, we're actually fairly close in line. Let me go through my analysis and show you what I came up with, and then I think we're gonna be able to settle in to a price that's really marketable one. And get this going by Saturday.
That's in a
So-
perfect scenario.
Perfect scenario, right?
But usually it's $100,000 to $200,000 more.
Yeah, it can be a lot more, right? So if they say that, right, say I'm just gonna throw it out, say you think it's 500, you've already done your analysis, you're showing up at the listing point, you think it's 500.
Mhm.
And they say that, right? Well, I think it's 6.25, because the Jones is just down the street, just listed theirs, or it's under contract. You think you need to know what the Jones's property looks like, and is either included in your packet or as a side note to the conversation? 100%. So I did a CMA class recently. I don't know if anyone was in it. You were probably in it, right? So I don't know if I botched it.
I
or
want
not,
to take
but
a CMA class, do another one.
I'll try to do another one. If it was worthwhile, I'd like some feedback.
I think it is.
But you wanna,
And the way you did it was so unique. I think it's super beneficial to
Good.
everyone that takes
Good.
it.
I tried to make it a practical, like a step-by-step here of what to actually do versus like conceptual. if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Is it recorded somewhere?
I'm trying to find out because so many people are asking me about your class.
I'm glad to do another one if it makes sense, as long as I have some high level feedback.
Participation.
But so when I do a CNA, I stay as honestly true to the value I think it's worth as possible. Like I really try to put the appraiser hat on and the market hat as well, right? Like if I'm a buyer looking at this house, for like how's it gonna be received in its market? And then I also want to know when it goes under contract, we send the file to Susan, or it is Susan. Just want to make sure. So I send the file to Susan, we're under contract, and she sends it to an appraiser who just laughs at us. There's no way it's gonna happen. I don't want that to happen. You need to be able to get the deal done. So I always hone in on my CMA with true data. But then I know that the seller has seen surrounding properties that they're gonna say, oh, my house should sell for more because of this one. Well, that was a 2-story with 1,400 extra square feet and a swimming pool. So then when they bring it up, it's much easier for you to say, well, that is a great house and it did sell for 6.25. Or I know you heard it sold for 650, but here's the sold data. It was actually 6.25. And here's why I didn't include it in my analysis for your property. It has a pool, it's got 3 extra bedrooms, it's 1,000 square feet, or it's 10 years newer, or whatever it is. Right? There's going to be something that's going to skew it to why that thinking is.
What if they're just saying that? Like, there's not actually a neighbor?
Yeah, if they're not saying that, then just say, well, yeah, let's go ahead and look through the data. That's not the same number that I came up with, but I think after we review the data that I do have, we're gonna have good confidence that we're gonna find the best marketable product. You have to just almost get past it and
Okay.
say, I'm confident in what I did here. I spent about 3 hours doing a CMA for you. And if there's any questions as we go through it, we can definitely talk about that, but I feel really good about this. And then on my front sheet, typically put my range right up front. So I would say like, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, this is what I think it's worth, 500 to 525, depending on X, Y, Z. Right, that's how I present it right off the gate. And then here's the data I used to support it. And I talked to them about a parent cell analysis and what we use to create the valuation. Listing plan. So, yeah, so I've already sent the pre-listing. They know I'm coming. They like my smile, they like my sign. It's cute. My sign's in my truck, where I've already called my guy. I got a key box in the house. I'll bring the key box in the house. This is what a key box looks like. Nobody else can get into it unless they're a currently licensed realtor. You can't open hacksaw or anything else. And here's that word. Like show them.
That's a good idea.
That's right. And again, it's a symbol. It's right. It's like plant my flag on your kitchen counter. And I got the sign in the back of my truck. I install my own signs because it's easy. If you don't, that's okay too. I won't question you, but like,
They're hard to install.
no, mine are easy. It's one post on the ground. You slide that one on top. But
Yeah,
if you don't
got
have a truck or
perfect
car,
world. I've been out there, I was trying to hammer it in,
I
and then I
love
called my dad to go get it for me.
so you don't have to decide, but bring key box, right? Show it's part of your value proposition. pay $100 for it, plus you've done the licensing, I show it to them. So- And it's a good reason that will have people can access my house. So in the listing appointment, sell that value. And then go for the close that you're most comfortable with. So again, I'm the assumptive close guy. We've already agreed to like me as an agent. I asked them from 1 to 10. One of this with me. They said 9. We agreed that the price was in the same range that they talked about. Or they might have thought it was 6, but they agreed that the data that I provided made sense. And agreed that that was probably what the home would market at. And they'd still make money. So let's go ahead and list it. So that. So the next step is we go ahead and sign this paperwork. Here's the next steps in the process. I've given you in the pre-listing packet, the seller's property condition disclosure. You don't have to fill that, great, but I'd love to come by in 48 hours and get that. But as soon as a buyer makes an offer, we want to make sure, look at that, promptly to help keep the process moving. Right, and I present the agreement and get it signed, get it done. Some people are using their iPad and just having them sign digitally, but for me, if I'm at their kitchen counter and I meet with them, I like to go through.
Yeah, I guess it depends on their age.
It does, yeah. Judy, sweet lady, she had to sign everything first. Janet was blind. It's like I had to have her daughter there and her, you know what I mean? So, yeah, like, know who your client is. If it's a young millennial, bring out the iPad, man, and or have it prepared inside DocuSign and have a sample. So I do agree that you should have this too. I think you're listing your own listing presentation. You have a pre-listing packet. You duplicate the pre-listing packet inside a binder or something that you can bring to every listing that you would just keep with you, right?
Oh.
And inside that, you could have sample contracts, right? So you could have your listing packet already in there. You flip to the sample contract piece and say, I'm going to send you by DocuSign in just a short second. All the documents I'm going to review with you right here. So once I send this, we'll already have reviewed all the contents that I've sent you, and you just need to click and sign. Exclusive right to sell means I'm going to be your exclusive agent. I won't represent anyone else without your prior acknowledgement. Property room listing is this. The fee that I charge is this. My fiduciary duties are this. We go to mediation. Should we have an issue? Blah, 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 blah. Sign, sign, sign. You know, here's the disclosures. Don't send your money to anybody in Afghanistan and somewhere else, wire fraud, all that stuff. And then I have it prepared on DocuSign with their emails and everything already to pull up on my phone or my tablet, and then you hit the send button. You say, so go ahead and pull your phone, put the email now. Oh yeah, I got it. Cool. Should have the 3 documents that we talked about here, 4 documents we presented. Go ahead and sign those. I'll just make sure I got it before I leave. And then sign it. And you go, yep, I got the completed documents. Can't wait to do business. Right? Sounds easy, little practice, being bold, though, like it seems bold, right? To have, so I'm all about, I didn't used to be, but I'm much more about the mindset and the power of just, if I think it, it will happen. It's strange. But and so if I make the steps in advance that they're going to sign, we're going to have it all prepared, ready to go. A few things happen. I said karma in place, or I don't know, it's karma. The juju,
Fate.
whatever, fate in place, yeah, like that's gonna happen. But most importantly, I'm prepared, I'm professional when I get there to say, I've already done all the work. All we gotta do is click and sign. And if the other agent, again, hasn't done that, hasn't pre-filled the paperwork, yada, yada, that they're interviewing with, they're gonna wish they went to you, they're gonna stay with that. So be prepared for that. Listing agreement is the next piece. Get a signed listing agreement, great. Question, build social confidence, already did that, very price recommendation, talk about that. Set expectations on how you will market the home and work with the seller. So every seller that I work with, I just do a weekly follow-up at the very least, so every Monday, even if they haven't had showings, no new activity, no price change recommendation, on and see what's up. I also take snapshots of the activity that we've gotten on any ads. We have, if you do Facebook pay-per-click ad inside of command, report, you can go into the MLS or to the MLS as well, see how many views you've had. I just try to.
And list track shows. on
Yeah,
the
list track,
MLS, list
yeah,
track.
list track, yeah. So that'll show you that stuff. I like to feed them new listings that might be of concern. Hey, there's a home around the corner, same exact house, basically, and they're 10,000 less than us. So if we don't get a good, if we don't get a buyer in the door soon, we might want to consider making a price adjustment. Right, or it's 10,000 less than us, but I did notice it needs new cabinets or countertops. Just gonna show that. Or I took the initiative to go see it. Here's why. Have those conversations with them and follow up if they have any questions. So, your needs come first. Oh yeah, this is the this presentation. I'm knowledgeable, caring, the best agent for these clients. They will appreciate my expertise and preparation and choose me to represent them as this. So tell yourself that little I am, right? And have all your documents already in place. So I'll stop there because opportunities are easy. Do you have anything you wanted to share? Do you guys have any specific lender? Preferences you want to talk about? Take a quick break off the room with sellers. So,
Are you a title company? Private, oh, okay.
Are you title or mortgage?
No, I'm a mortgage.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm the mortgage.
so how soon, like how many days can you get moved?
How many days does it take? It takes about 3 hours altogether. From the time you send me the contact information, till they fill it out and I give them back. It could be, oh, yeah.
Do
it
you
could
have like
be-
a list you could tell us, we could tell them the things that they're gonna need?
No, she will tell them that.
I mean,